Thank you,
Jen, will you
Lori.
tell me a
I'd love
little
to
bit
hear.
about you and what a life fitness coach is? Tell me more.
Absolutely. Well, I'm a certified life coach and I'm a certified personal trainer. And what that means is that I am, I set myself up to be an ally and a support for those who are striving for more, for those who want to grow emotionally, spiritually, physically, life fitness, all the aspects of our being, and doing so at a high capacity.
Okay. Well, when I think about fitness, I mean, that's been one of my passions as an older woman. And but it's always been there for me. It's been something that has kept me out of anxiety and out of depression, and probably better on a narrower path to recovery. So I'm wondering, when you talk about your life fitness and the coach part of it, how do you see your clients get impacted by this?
It happens on a few different levels. You know, there's a spiritual connection that happens through exercise, and that happens through the introspective work, I believe, that we do as members of recovery. And we bring that to the work that we do physically. So it just is this multi-layered work that we get to do for ourselves that just enables us to tap into aspects of ourselves that that we might not known needed to be awakened. And they get that way, like through a willingness to continue to show up and do the work. And again, through the introspective stuff, working steps, whatever that, outside help, through therapy, counseling, whatever that, reading thought-provoking material, as well as showing up and attempting new things physically, or doing things through exercise that maybe you did before but haven't done in a while since being in recovery. It's a really cool process.
So are your clients mostly in recovery? Is that where you are kind of focusing on?
Some are, the majority are, actually, yes. And I'm open to working with all. I have some clients that are not in recovery. It turns out that I find in my experience, when I show up coaching clients through my perspective, my lens of a recovering alcoholic, the way that I talk to them is just the way that I would talk to anybody else, and it's received really well. People like kind of delve into aspects of a thought process, maybe that hadn't been brought to them in such a way before. And it works out really well. It turns out that this design for living that I happen to have tapped into with my 12-step program and these layers of work, it's a design for living that can work for all.
Well, would you kind of say more about that? As a therapist, while we talk about exercises has been known to be as efficient as an antidepressant, if not more. So I'm wondering if you could expound on how your program specifically can be impactful to those that have mental health problems or in the recovery process. Like, when you think about, is it just not only their bodies, is it their mental health? So can you tell me a little more about that?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, there's a process that happens just by virtue of doing exercise and getting our heart rate up and it changes activity in our brain. Our brains actually grow. It releases different chemicals, neurotransmitters fire differently. We're talking serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine. This stuff starts going through our system and we shift. We just are not the same as what we were before starting an activity. And by virtue of that, it creates elevated energy, mood stabilizing takes place, creative thought, all awesome stuff that we can take with us with whatever we're doing. Not to mention, there's this concept of a runner's high, and I mean, I have experienced such a thing when I run or bike, actually, and with lifting weights. There's an awesome, empowering process that happens with that as well. So yes, so it's through the structure. For me, it started with working the steps of my program and laying a foundation of all those principles that I was taught, like honesty and hope and integrity and discipline and perseverance. I take that to a physical exercise program, and the cumulative results of all of that has been transformative for me. Just brings it all together.
That's very interesting. And I'm wondering if you would share a little bit tiny of your own personal transformation. I mean, I'm asking you a big old question on live Facebook, but I think that people would be able to really connect with the real personal story.
Absolutely. Yeah. So like my story includes drinking alcoholically for the better part of a decade, pretty much daily, for sure, for 8 years. And then I started trying to get sober after that, but 8 years of solid, like daily drinking. And it didn't start out that way, man. Drinking was fun until it wasn't fun anymore. I wanted to quit and I couldn't. And I tried to figure it out. And figuring it out left me drunk every time. So getting into a 12-step program and treatment centers, and it was an in and out process for me for over 2 years. And until I surrendered to some ideas that were not my own and solution that I didn't want to accept, just might be for me, that was the solution that was for me. And so working 12 steps and taking those principles into all of my affairs today has led me, and that was like doing the work. I knew that I had to do those steps, like my life depended on it, because I was dying out there, and I knew it. I felt it, and I didn't want to. It's like I wanted something better for myself. And then staying sober after a little while, learning, getting curious about things, and learning like what I found fun and interesting as a sober woman, turns out brought me back to exercise, which is something that I tapped into for a while in my late 20s. And that brought me to lifting weights, and some women started asking me, actually want to go to a spin class. And so then that brought me to spinning, and I ended up doing that for a couple of years on a regular basis. And you know, it's just by virtue of being open-minded and willing to suggestions, just like when I came in and someone said, hey, maybe read this literature and work these steps. I take that premise to everything today. Just enough open-mindedness and willingness to say, I might not know what's best for me, so let me take a suggestion and see if I wind up a little bit better on the other side. And so that led me to working out on a regular basis. And then I ended up getting into a job where I got to work at an exercise studio for a couple of years. And COVID-19 happened and that place got shut down. And I had gotten my certification, like just in case, like I felt something inside, like a calling to do something more with this passion that I had grown to see it as, that I felt with working my program and exercising, but not sure how to bring it all together. And then what the universe does is when I'm a little indecisive about something, it gives me a nudge. It says, this job no longer exists. And then I started Joyworks Coach. And I'm I'm hitting the ground and I'm pounding the pavement. And just my mission today is to be an ally to those who are striving for something more, who are wanting to find their purpose, whatever the purpose is for right now. It doesn't have to be the end all purpose, but this purpose for where we're at today. And just to be an ally and a support for creating a space to break through any barriers that they may have. And also just with having some exercise discipline, exercise hygiene, right? Like just like financial hygiene and recovery and spiritual hygiene. Like there's this exercise hygiene that we get to develop for ourselves, whatever fits for each individual.
Well, that's impressive. And I think that, you know, when I think of my own recovering with eating disorders and how exercise was an imperative piece for me for routine. And what we know is what fires together, wires together, and routines are really important in our, even our mental health hygiene, just to keep on a steady path. I think one of the things that in COVID is that we've been thrown off our routine, and many of the things that we've had in our routine where it's not available right now. So we've had to make some shifts and do things differently and even exercise differently. I'm hearing lots of clients talk about not being able to go to the gym and how hard that is. And then when they opened up, how that's difficult. So I guess too, while we're on that part, how is your program different than me just going to the gym and doing the things I normally do?
Because I bring my you know, there's some stuff like that is basic, that, you know, we're going to lift weights, we're going to get cardio, but I bring my perspective, and what that provides is a different kind of connection. Personal trainers and coaches connect with players and athletes and their clients all the time. And so there's probably kind of a special section, cross section of peeps that I'm going to connect with on a different kind of level, for the fact that I bring the lens of recovery. I see the discipline of what we're doing. There's no small feat. Like when we're lifting weights, there's no weight that's too light, and there's no amount of time that's too short. We're making steps, we're starting, and anything more than what we did yesterday is a fantastic success. Anything that we did differently than how you wanted to do it yesterday, that you superseded in whatever kind of way that is for you, that's a massive success. It's these seemingly small incremental changes that we make that are very impactful and powerful. So there's that, there's accountability. Just some people really work well with having just someone that they know is waiting at the park for them. And again, that ally, that person, that team member, really, like, I'm on your team. Like, we get to do this thing, and we get to roll along what's fun and comfortable for you, along with some, maybe a few uncomfortable suggestions along the way too from me, in order to create that growth.
Fabulous. And I apologize for me running out really quick and the noises that you might hear behind me. We're having a thunderstorm and my little Lily is struggling. So she would like to exercise right now, and so she's exercising her squeaky. It's the life of COVID. Yeah. So it's so let me also go to that place as while exercise does improve, our motivation. It can improve our mood. It can improve our sleep. It actually can improve our sex life, because we're a little bit more accessible to our body and feel better about our body. It will improve our self-esteem, clearer thoughts, and memories, able to remember more. And you've talked about the connection with people as you're going to the gym or meeting with them, that there's this other part. And I'm also believe that it is a real wonderful thing to help ward off other illnesses. So with all that mentioned, is there anything else that you see coming out of a routine that's helpful of exercise?
Freedom.
There you are. Yeah.
Freedom. Like, when discipline is freedom, when I create structure and routine, routine, it's like it's a dirty word, but it's like, and discipline, but it's like, that is what provides a framework for us to optimize our time and our resources and so that I can free myself up to do other things that I enjoy. And again, it makes me feel more comfortable in my own skin. I mean, that's peace. It's priceless to me.
Absolutely. I really appreciate that point of view. Freedom is key.
Discipline.
So I guess I would want to ask I'm not in the gym exercising with my clients. You get to do that. But the coaching part, tell me a little bit, how does that differ from therapy?
Well, like life coaching. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I'm not licensed. It's a certification that I've received, some training, and it's this perspective. I'm the way that I operate, what I'm operating from is a position of the work that I've done for self. My life coaching experience, my mentors, my sponsors, books that I read. I just listen to what clients and peers have to say, and really, for the most part, like, we really have all the answers within us. And it's just a matter of the power of speaking it out loud to another human being who can be an active listener and maybe ask a couple of thought-provoking questions just to kind of jostle and massage the thought around a little bit. And again, like, not the degreed trained professional in that regard for like as the schooling that you've gone through. I get to be just like kind of on a peer level.
More with
and them. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I would imagine that too also creates a special relationship, more of a different type of connection.
It does. It does. It's informal. It's yes. It's more friendly. And I mean, these are folks I'm, likely sitting next to in the meetings I go to and stuff like that. And truly, like, some, maybe not my clients, but then it's like sitting on the other side of me is the guy who holds space for me when I'm doing my work. So that's key also, is working with folks who are working their own actively working their own program and striving to grow as well.
Just, when I think about exercise, and I know there's various levels of exercise and how we, where we are with our endurance and our shape. Is there any previous exercise folks have to kind of be, or shape, maybe in shape before they get to see you, or they can start wherever they are?
I'll meet people wherever they're at. There's definitely, I do an initial free initial consultation with clients to get a baseline about injuries. That's something that I need to know about injuries, and I like to know what kind of previous experience there may have been, what's worked, what doesn't, what hasn't, at least in the past, as well as what clients find fun and particularly enjoyable. But in terms of being at some kind of level, no, just like come as you are, and let's talk about where you think you want to be and where you want to go. The sky's the limit. It's the limit. It really is. Like when we're open to whatever the possibilities can be, it provides a lot more room as to what those possibilities actually, those outcomes actually get to be. You're muted, Lori.
Thank you. I was trying to, help that little girl. We have a question from the listeners or viewers, and
I can't hear you right now.
still can't hear me.
You're not. Oh, there's Lori. Lori, I can't hear you, but I'm going to take this question from Facebook. That's in our chat box. We have a question. I do group training sessions also? Physically distanced, of course. Yes. I absolutely do. Small groups, socially distanced. And I also get into that conversation with clients as to comfort level around wearing a mask and not wearing a mask. I clean equipment. When we're using equipment, we also do use body weight for exercises as well. But some people thrive when in a group setting, and I absolutely, we provide that as well.
Great. Still can't hear me?
I can hear you a little bit. You're super faint, and I'm turning up my volume.
And that was what I was talking about. I was reading the question as well.
Okay, I hear you now.
So when you do group, what's the difference in the sense, is it still the same kind of routine? Do you get the same type of people that are working on the same step, or is it just a varied deal?
It's more varied. Similar in the sense that I combine endurance, resistance, and strength. It's circuit. It would just play off of each other a little bit and throw in a little like healthy competition as well. But other than that, it's very similar.
Okay. Well, Jen, what else would you want to say to, the folks that are watching out there or listening? What else could they benefit from?
Man, I just get so excited when I get to talk about how transformative this process has been for me. And no two scenarios ever need to look the same. Like someone else's story is not going to look the same as mine. But I do believe that the outcome can be quite similar in the sense of putting in some work at a different level, this physical aspect in conjunction with the introspective piece of whatever that work looks like for you, whether it's counseling or therapy or working steps with a sponsor or and reading material that gets you thinking. Running that in and along with physical activity creates a different kind of foundation for which we get to stand on and operate from. The higher sense of self and also like a greater self-esteem, emotional stability, spiritual connection. And the biggest thing for me that I would really love to be sure that folks think about who are hesitating on doing the exercise thing right now, which again, I take it outside and it ends up being like a really awesome connection with nature as well. But I had to get past ideas of who I thought I was in order to become who I'm meant to be. That's one of the biggest things in regards to exercise and limiting belief systems that I carried with me from yay high. I said my whole life, I am not a runner. I cannot run. I said that probably 1,000 something times in my life. And 2 years ago, I began training for a half marathon and ran it, and then ran another half marathon within less than a year from that at 45 and 46 years old. So who am I to say that I cannot do something from the standpoint of getting past and busting through barriers of stuff that limits me? I owe that to getting sober and starting to and having this spiritual and emotional shift that created a space to allow for things to shift trifold, including the physical piece as well. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you. There's also another question. Can you see that?
Yes, let me pull that up. The question is, I've definitely put on weight during COVID pandemic. Many friends suggest intermittent fasting. I think I just need to get started back exercises. Any thoughts on fasting as a person in recovery? I am told to never be hungry. Yes. Now that is really very interesting because I just started intermittent fasting. Literally, like, now I don't necessarily recommend that for somebody that's in early recovery. I don't, but I don't dissuade it either. But there is that hungry piece there. So that's really to be looked at and considered. Now, getting started, I believe, for me, what sets me up for success is not doing too many radical things all at once. I will say that. And so picking, to me, like when I look at that scenario, I think, man, get moving with some exercise, as well as starting to make shifts in food choices. Like what I was saying earlier, there's no such thing as like a small deal, really. Like when you start making different decisions incrementally, that compounds and creates big effects. So I definitely affirm starting to make different changes. And and I'm happy to talk about basics around nutrition as well. I'm not certified in the nutrition aspect, but I have basic knowledge and information, and also resources to guide one to. But I can be helpful to get started in that regard. Um, we can have a conversation. Whoever sent that question, I would love to speak with you further on that.
And I would also support that part about not being hungry. It's too tired, too lonely, too hungry. And part of that piece is that when we're deprived, our natural instinct is to resist. And we will do things that we don't need to be doing in recovery at that point. But I also, coming from an eating disordered world, we have a billion-dollar industry. And the truth of the matter is, from these lens, and from 30-something years of doing this type of work, diets don't work. And it is about getting our bodies moving. It is about making better choices in our food, and finding ways of coming back to our body so that we can feed it appropriately, and nourish it and take care of it. A lot of the extreme stuff actually puts weight back on us because we can't tolerate it for very long, because we are human beings. So I guess when we think about this type of work, this sounds like, I just lost my thought, but it sounds like you're the only one. I've not heard many people doing this type of work, doing some coaching and doing training and being in recovery. Do you have this niche?
Oh, well, there are folks that are doing it. There's a friend of mine that someone got me in touch with. Charlie McGarty is doing it in Austin and Round Top in San Antonio more so, and also getting coming into Houston a little bit too. He's active recovery coaching. Great guy. I've done some work with him, and but yes, I've heard that from providers and such around here as well. It's not tapped into very much here in Houston quite yet at this point. But yes, it's a niche that I'm navigating and excited to, like I said, very excited to share with others that are navigating different recovery journeys as well. As like we were saying earlier, not necessarily having to be in recovery in order to reap the benefits of mind, body, soul work.
Absolutely. And as in Recovery Month, as September, this is a prime time to begin looking at that.
Absolutely.
Well, I have one out of questions. Do you have any thoughts or other things you'd like to share?
I think, I don't know, like I think we covered a lot of bases, and I really appreciate the platform to get to speak about something that has absolutely brought, well, if I haven't mentioned this, because we have talked about like this great emotional stability and spiritual connection, as well as improved physical health and overall well-being. This whole thing altogether is, as the product of it, brings me to a more joyful life. And that is what the whole deal is about for me as well. Like I did not get sober, to be less than living a optimum life and feeling like contentment and peace around who and what I am today. And this brings me into realizing that happiness, joy, it's all right in here. It's an inside job, man. And I get to do this layer of work is necessary to drive it all home. It brings me out into nature more often. And I see metaphors and analogies for life and like what's going on with sunrises and sunsets and animals that are out there, and just the way that flowers bloom. It's really the lessons that I get to learn. Again, that creative thought process that gets turned in while I'm out there exercising. And I see how, like when I'm on the Bayou path in February and I see that first lone wildflower pop up, and I'm like, damn, there's this one wildflower, and this whole bayou is gonna be run with countless. And there's the first one that pops up, and all the work that happened underneath while the roots were taking hold. And that is such an analogy about the stuff that we do as members of a recovery community, or anyone that's doing inner work, that then comes out on the other side put together differently, and like this bigger, better version, like this bloom that happens on the other side. And man, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I can't believe that I would ever say that I needed like an alcoholic rock bottom to bring me to a life full of purpose and fulfillment and true joy. I can't believe it, man. But that's the life that I live today. I'm grateful for it.
Well, Jen, you've been a joy to talk with, and I'm very inspired by what you're doing. And I hope that the audience will get to take some good things from you, and we'll be calling you up soon.
Hope so. I hope so. Yes. Like, definitely check me out on Instagram or Facebook. I have my website as well, joyworkscoach.com. And I'd love to continue the conversation with anybody that wants to keep talking. Let's chop it up.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and stay dry today, huh?
I know, it's a little monsoony out there right now. You too. Stay safe.
Thank you.